Today is Friday, February 26, 2021. I didn't sleep that great last night. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and something disconcerting happened. I felt in my throat this lump and blockage. It was awful and incredibly painful. And the image that I had was that my tumor had grown overnight substantially to the point where I just had this overwhelming pain that just covered my whole neck area. And I started to have a bit of an anxiety attack over it. I started to think about, oh no, what does this mean? And all sorts of thoughts ran into my head about, will I make it to this prayer meeting on March 4th? And I started to pray. I just prayed to God, Lord God, take this away, take this pain away. And I'm still counting on and having faith that you're going to perform a miracle at that community prayer service. And I just prayed and I fell back asleep. Then I woke up again at around 5 o'clock in the morning. Only this time I couldn't fall back asleep and I started to think in bed, well, what should I do? And I thought to myself, well, maybe God has something to say to me. And I did something that I don't really typically do. I maybe have done this a couple of times in my lifetime as a Christian. I decided to reach over to my phone and take my Bible app. And I decided to just randomly scroll through all of the books in the Bible with my eyes closed, and I pushed on whatever book my finger landed on with my eyes closed, and I pushed again a second time to land on whatever chapter it would land on. And it landed on Jonah chapter 2. And if you're interested in Jonah chapter 2, that verse, to give you a little bit of background, and I'm going to look it up. I have it already on my phone, but let me look it up. To give you a little bit of background on that particular verse, Jonah was told by God to go to Nineveh, and as a prophet, he was instructed to go preach that God's judgment was going to fall upon the Ninevites because of their disobedience. However, Jonah did not want to comply with God's instruction, and so he fled. He went the opposite direction of what God wanted him to go. Because of that, God stopped him, and he was on a ship. He ended up being thrown into the water by the shipmates, and a large fish swallowed him up. Now, the verse that I'm about to read, this happened, this was written 3 days into the belly of the whale. There was no reason for Jonah to think that he was going to escape this situation alive. 3 days in the belly of this fish, or whale, if you want to think of it that way, he was probably thinking, I am going to die. This is it. And justifiably saying, I have it coming. I disobeyed and this is what I deserve. But he decided to cry out to God. And God responded, had mercy on him. And let me read Jonah chapter 2. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. Then I said, I am driven away from your sight, yet I shall again look upon your holy temple. The waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped around about my head at the roots of the mountain. I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever, yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. When my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Those who pay regard to vain idols forsake their hope of steadfast love, but I, with the voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed I will pay. Salvation belongs to the Lord. And the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out upon the dry land. As I read that, I was just taken back because my cousin's wife had a dream just a week ago. And in that dream, she saw me and Serena surrounded by water. And she described it almost as being in a tsunami. And everything around me and Serena was destroyed except that at the end, we were found well and completely dry. So I can't help but think that God is talking to me, and I'm receiving it as that, and time will tell. But it's encouraged me and it's offered me reinforcement for the hope that I already have. So then I woke up. I went back to sleep from that, giving thanks and praise to God, and then I woke up, and that pain that I had was gone. In fact, my throat felt better than it did yesterday. And I went to the gym, I worked out, and had this amazing conversation with someone that I've only known casually, and I was able to just share with that person what I'm going through and ask for their prayers. And we had just this lovely exchange of mutual encouragement in God. So then it continued. The encouragement continued. Another friend said, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you at a coffee shop and give you something." And we said, okay. And so Serena and I met with our closest friend, and she said, "I have something for you that was given for me to deliver to you anonymously." And she presented us with a gift that immediately caused Serena to break down in tears, and it left me speechless. It's really hard to receive gifts. It is, because I think to myself, I just want to work. I just want to earn whatever resources that we have to live by, and gifts and offerings, anything like that. I think to myself, please, there are other people that are in greater need than us. You know, we'll be all right, but please, no, thank you. But I've learned how important the gift is to the giver of the gift, not just the receiver of the gift. And so I received the gift with all humility and gratitude, as did Serena. And we stopped right there and prayed and asked God, would you please kiss the person or person's face and hold them so close to your bosom that they can feel your love, and return to them 100-fold what they have given to us. And again, speechless. And a couple of other things. I mentioned probably in one of my entries that I reached out to an old best friend. Well, today I heard back from that old best friend. We haven't talked in decades, and we had an exchange, and it was just beautiful. I always wondered why we drifted apart and how that happened, and we were able to communicate today, and he has joined me on my plea for prayer support, and we reconnected. This is after decades of never speaking, and amazing. This is a guy that people considered him my brother. They thought he was my brother because we sort of looked alike and we were inseparable, sharing so many things in life at that time of adolescence and growing up together, one adventure after another, and we got to share about those things. So it was great. Then I had another communication that I want to talk about, that it was a friend from high school that I've not heard from in decades. And he said to me, he said, Michael, I hate that you're going through this, and I remember all the things that you went through in the past as if it was yesterday. And he said, you know, I'm going to be praying for you. He said, I have not prayed in decades, and I don't know if God is even there, and if he is there, if he even listens, but I'm going to start praying every day for you. And what I plan to write to him is what is truly on my heart, and that is this. If me going through this life and death threat results in him coming closer to God and restoring a relationship with God, then I am honored, grateful, eternally thankful for the privilege of this time of suffering. And I wouldn't change a thing, not a single thing, if that is what my circumstances bring to him. I ended up getting home and some neighbors came by with a meal. A delicious meal, oh my goodness. I inhaled that meal, it was so good. And I just want to say that we're blessed and so grateful to live in the community that we live in. We live in a community called Summers Corner. Serena and I have been blessed by the Lord with some of the most precious, amazing, loving neighbors. So grateful. And they came by with some food and they prayed for us, and my heart is bursting, overflowing with joy. At the same time, I got a call from the people regarding my PET scan on Monday, and I was told that they had to cancel my PET scan because the insurance could not complete the pre-approval. So they had even extended the deadline by a couple of hours, trying really hard to make this happen, but it did not happen. So they had to announce to us that, yeah, it's not going to be able to happen on Monday. And I was so calm and at peace and accepting of this. And I said to the woman on the phone, I said, thank you so much for extending the deadline and doing all the things that you did in order for us to be able to have the PET scan. And I understand it didn't work out, but I said, I want you to know something. I am a Christian man. I believe in God. And if this procedure did not get pre-approved, it's because it wasn't meant to be pre-approved, and that's okay. In God's time it will, and when he's ready, we will reschedule it. And the peace of God that is the result of so many of you praying has got my perspective aligned as it needs to be, as it always ought to be. So I am at peace and overflowing with joy. Now, right now, I have something incredibly difficult to do. Perhaps one of the most difficult things I will ever have to do. And so before I do this, I'm going to stop and pray to God for the strength to do it. And I will share with you what comes of it. So I finished my time of prayer, And I did the very difficult thing that I mentioned I'm going to do. However, it did not work out completely as I had hoped, and so I'm going to try again. So I will share in greater detail at another time what it is that I did or tried to do that was very difficult for me. But I'm going to do something right now that is not terribly difficult, but it's a demonstration of faith. This is a sweater that I received as a birthday gift from one of my dearest friends, someone I treasure beyond comprehension. And I received this as a birthday gift, but I communicated to that person, please keep your receipt. And I am going to hold off on removing the tags because if things don't work out for me as I hope, I would want you to take this back and be able to get your money back. And I thought to myself, I don't want also brand new clothes that Serena has to then bring to Goodwill or figure out how to resell. I thought, everyone just get your money back. But I'm going to do something. I am taking off the tags, and I am believing by faith that these won't have to be returned. And so I take this birthday gift and I put it on as a step of faith and trust and confidence that God is going to do the impossible.